Hey there viewers, welcome back to Ray of All Trades. We are working on a hopefully quick repair on a Generac 7000 EXL generator, and the complaint was it's just been sitting for a long time. He went to start it and didn't start. I'm hoping that we're just dealing with something simple, just lack of maintenance. Electric start unit, 14 horsepower motor. I'm going to say that the battery's probably shot on this thing. These are actually pretty nice units. Got the two twist lock plugs on them, the two 110s. Of course, your start and stop. That's a DC output. 4 different breakers on them. And there is a voltage regulator adjustment on these things. So you can actually set them up. And I forget where it's at. I thought there was a hole here somewhere, but I've had them apart before. You just basically pull these off. So pretty nice units, very heavyweight. They have the low oil shutdown feature on them. It looks like this is the start and stop for the motor, and then it had a different start and stop, I'm guessing, or an on-off for the electric over here. Let's see what we're working with. Let's see, oil filter looks pretty doggone old. The fuel gauge isn't all rusted up like I expected. The cap is definitely busted off though, so if this was out in the rain without a cap here, that rainwater would have gone straight down into this cup and straight down into the tank itself. Let's see what we have. Not terrible, a little bit of dirt, at least on this end. On the other end, we might be looking at some water down here in this shutoff valve, because this is the lowest spot of the tank. I want to go ahead and get that fuel out of there and replace that fuel line, because that thing's rigid as can be. Let's get this cover off so we can get the access to the fuel line, and then drain what's in here out and start afresh, because I mean, you know as well as I do, it's been sitting, that cap is busted, it's guaranteed to have water in it. Let's start with the basics, right? Little spider webs. The air filter looks a little bit like it got wet at one point, but it's not caked with dirt. And I need a deep well socket for that one. See what we have here. We have some wires. Okay. Wires and some spider webs. All right. So normally I would try to just shoot some ether in this thing and fire it up. Of course, like I said, I wanted to drain what's in here out, so I didn't add any more. But I mean, y'all can see right off the bat that this carburetor has to come apart. It has to be cleaned up. So let's work on that first. Oof, you guys see that? I'm hoping y'all can see that. Yeah, that wasn't going to run. I don't know if y'all can see that or not. Let's see, that's the off button or the off switch, and it works. Turn it back on. Okay. So the on-off switch works. think my throttle control, I can usually sneak this thing out of here because it's just, this style has a, of course it has the vibration spring on it, but it also has the regular rod. It's not a Z-bend. Can y'all see that? It's just basically a flat end to the rod. And generally, it usually can just lift right out of this grommet. Take a little bit of wiggling because it has to go above that space right there. But yeah, see, it just lifts right out. And then this spring, it's pretty doggone rusted. Should just lift right out. Try to dump this thing out in the, if it had any in there, which it should have. Oh yeah, look at that. Well, we'll get this thing on the bench while that's draining. Doesn't look like gas, does it? Doesn't smell like gas either. Well, low 23s next. Can I get this stuff off and save it? Because sometimes you can take these just apart and clean them up and put them right back together without even having to buy a kit for them. So I like to use a razor blade just to save that gasket, as much of that material as possible. Now I have new gaskets, I have new gasket material, I know how to make gaskets, but if you don't have access to all that, that's one way you can save a couple of pennies and get your stuff back up and running, as long as the gasket seals up. If it doesn't seal up, then you're in for an intake leak and it won't run right. And actually, that gasket was actually the one to the air box anyway, so that one's actually not critical. But if it was this side, the one that goes to the motor, the intake, that side would cause an intake leak. And it will not run right. So let's see. This one's supposed to have the holes in it. I can't even tell yet if this is the design that has the holes in the nut. That's how dirty it is so far. All right, so that's what we've got for the bowl. Yeah, she's pretty bad. All right. Does that move easy enough or no? She might go in the ultrasonic cleaner before I get it fully disassembled. Oh, there we go. It came out. Will the needle pull out? Oh yeah. Needle pull almost like it was brand new. Needle pulled right out. Man, this thing sprayed off, just throw it right back on, right? Just dump some seafoam in the gas tank and she'd have ran like a champ. Okay, that looks like it's completely clogged. I don't know if I can get that gasket out. She's pretty well mashed in there. I think we're gonna go in the ultrasonic cleaner first. Let's see if the emulsion tube comes out. Maybe not. I don't see any threads on it like you could unscrew it. So right here should be my pilot jet. Let's get that pulled out of there if I can without pulling out my throttle screw. Let's see if I can get that out of there. Old little Matco screwdriver saved the day today. Let's get that pilot jet out of there. Log completely up. Okay. And let's see, does this have a ball bearing in it? No. I wasn't sure if there was a ball bearing in there or not. I didn't think so. All right. In the ultrasonic she goes. Let's see if we can get this thing cleaned up. All right, so while we're waiting, let's go ahead and get some of this other stuff done. Hopefully that buzzing noise isn't driving you guys crazy like it is me. Get that on. Waiting for a fresh carburetor. This was that gasket I was talking about. If you don't have a brand new one of these, you want to make sure that it's completely clean to the best of your ability. And if necessary, add some fuel resistant sealer to, I usually just put it on one side. I usually don't put it on the other side just to make sure that you get a nice good seal there. Let's check and see what the oil is doing on this thing. It's got an oil filter, so I'm anticipating it might not be that bad. Oh yeah, she needs a change. With an oil filter, it should not be that bad. It shouldn't look that, I mean, it needed an oil change anyway. I was just curious. Sometimes people will put these things away after like 1 hour of runtime. This one, not so much. All right, so pan underneath the plug. You got one of these plugs on each side. I'm hoping it goes straight down as opposed to spilling out this way. Oh yeah, there we go. That'll work. And while that's draining, let's get this oil filter off so I can figure out if I have one or if I got to go to the store. Yeah, it looks like it'll work. Based on the marks right here, looks like I pulled out maybe a quart or just over a quart. It looks like I put in right or just over a quart. That's what I just added. And she is right at the bottom of those threads. Maybe up, maybe one thread. Once I get some in the filter, I think she'll be right at the bottom of the threads. All right. That's still looking pretty bad. That one might go back in again. Get some of this water out of here. Look what I got out of that thing. Well, that was not clogged anymore anyway. And my pilot jet. You guys see the corrosion that's formed on that thing? Basically, it ate away the material, that metal. It ate it away, so there's nothing but a bunch of holes inside there. And they're not supposed to be there. So, decisions. Let's see. And she's starting to come around. Dremeling a wheel might do something here. But man, I'm really thinking I might want to just put a carb on this thing. I think it'll work. I'm just not liking my odds. I feel like all of this scaling and rust and everything might eventually come off and end up in my passages if I don't get it all off of here. Thinking about going a little bit harsher of a chemical, like maybe using some vinegar or something. My problem is I think it might do more damage. And that gasket isn't a really good seal either. I don't know, what do y'all think? Put it together and send it? or do it the right way, since it's a generator and you're going to count on it to work when it needs to work. And I'm leaning towards do it the right way. So if your carburetor is not as bad as this, that plug goes right back inside there. The main jet drops right there. All right, clean that out with a torch tip cleaner. Your float and needle goes together just like that. Drop it down inside that hole right there. And then put this pin back in. This gasket, make sure that it seats down inside that groove really well, and drop this bowl right back on there. You should see it seal up all the way around. You should be able to mash that gasket all the way completely in. Gasket back on here. Tighten this up just past finger tight, just a little snug, because this is aluminum and brass. Well, this one here is just aluminum and steel, right? So it's just in tin, and it's just mashing in there, so you don't want that to go too tight. Then you would drop your pilot after you cleaned out that passage there, drop it back down inside here, barely tighten it up, put the cap, the plug back over the top of it, that screw right there. Then verify, so blow air into it, and it should easily go blow air through this way. And then when you flipped it over, let me get some of this stuff out of here. When you flip it over and the float is now sealed up on that, try to blow through it. So basically you just the gravity of that should stop your air from being able to blow through there. Make sure that this surface is nice and clean. If you have a new gasket, this is obviously for the airbox side, but the other gasket's still on the motor, but make sure this surface is nice and clean. Put it back together. If you're filling up with fuel and it's flowing over, basically it's saying that this needle is not against that seat properly. In other words, you got dirt, or there was something wrong with the needle or the seat or something like that. If it's overflowing like that, then that's one indicator. If you don't think that you're getting any fuel in, you can loosen up this nut on the bottom, and when there's fuel coming down inside there, it should start draining out of this nut on the bottom. That bowl's on there. It should start flowing some fuel out of there. That's pretty much it. I mean, pretty simple carburetor. I hate not putting it back together to show you guys, but basically I'm just going to buy a brand new carburetor for this thing, because I can just get a really cheap carburetor and we're going to put it back together. But if you're in this position and your carburetor is not quite this bad, that's how you would clean it. Just clean it out, blow all the passages through. If you're blowing air through this thing, this is critical. Not as much on this one, so I know I'm going to get a few comments on that. So this one, let me show you why. So this one, the rubber sealing surface is on the needle. So the air is not going to go shooting the seat out of there. So this one here is not that critical. However, if this was all steel and you had a seat down inside here, there's going to be a rubber seat down inside there. If you blow air through this direction into where the fuel comes in, it'll probably take that seat and fly it out across the room, and you'll never find it. They drop off into Never Never Land. I don't know where they go. Some point, I'm sure I'll find them all. They're probably all sitting together in a corner somewhere, mixed up with the cobwebs. And then just clean all your passages out. Everything you can possibly find. Any kind of passage, like there's a passage down inside there. Just clean everything you possibly can out of there. Make sure there's no dirt at all. Try to work on a cleaner surface than what I've got going on right here. And this one doesn't have a adjuster on the side, air idle adjustment or a fuel adjustment. Some of them are for air, some of them are for fuel. This is your idle speed screw. So as the governor has pushed the throttle basically completely closed, this screw right here is going to set your idle speed. On a generator, your wide open throttle running RPMs is a whole different screw. And then of course this is your choke. Anyway, I'm going to buy a carburetor for this thing, and just to make sure that it's a solid unit when the person who needs it or who owns it needs it. I'll bring you guys back as soon as I have one. All right, let's give this thing a try. Got my voltmeter hooked up, got my 1500 watt load hooked up, and let's give it the first start.
Choke to you, right? Should be.
on, that power save mode should kick in. Right back up to 60 hertz. Yeah, she's running good. Just gonna run it out of fuel. We'll be ready to go. There we go. She's out of fuel. She's ready to go. Ready for my buddy to put it back in service. Hope y'all got something out of the video. Really appreciate you hanging out, and I'll catch you on the next one.